All right, thank you for joining me for this tutorial. This tutorial is for Code.org, Unit 3, Lesson 7, the draw loop. So let's get started. Start, please, by going to Rapid Identity and clicking on the Code.org tile. When you go this way, it ensures that you sign in and you're connected to all your past progress. And when you get to Code.org, I'd like you to click on Continue Lesson. Okay, that will take you to the next spot. If for some reason Continue Lesson does not work, you can click on View Course and scroll down to Lesson 7. And you want it to say Lesson 7, the draw loop. All right, so in this lesson, we're going to use the draw loop along with some random number blocks to make animations appear to move so that we can make your animations, your little characters, come to life. So an animation is just a set of images, okay? And it creates the illusion of motion by changing rapidly. A frame is just a single image within an animation, and the frame rate is the rate at which the frames are shown, usually measured per second. So we have some new blocks. The function draw, this is our loop, and the frame rate. This you can increase or decrease the rate of change to either slow down or speed up your animation. All right, let's get started. And please remember that at any point during this tutorial, after I've given some directions, press pause, and then you can try the activity on your own. All right, bubble number 2 is a video. I would like you to watch this video. It's very short, but it really breaks down the animation and the purpose of it and how it works, and compares it kind of to a flip book type of a thing. So please pause this tutorial so that you can watch the video on bubble 2, the introduction to the draw loop. Now that you have watched that video, please click continue to go to bubble 3. And we have some code here. So let's click run to see how it works. All right, and this code is creating ellipses or ellipsi. I wonder how we say that. Each time an ellipse is created, its x position is random and its y position is random. Is this kind of like the flip book in the video? And the answer is no, because the flip book in the video, the previous animations go away. You only see the current one. Whereas this one, in this example, the animations are just loaded on top of each other. So please click finish. All right, here is our little summary, and here's an example of the flip book. The picture is not actually moving, but because the frames, each of these pages show up separately, it gives the appearance of movement. So here's the new block we're going to use, the draw loop. And here's the example of the coding that we just saw with a random ellipse being drawn. And then here's how it will look when we add it to Sprites. So lesson 6, we had Sprites. So you'll recognize these purple and pink blocks. Now we're going to add some things to the function block. Now the function block is this green one, and you'll notice other coding blocks nestle inside of it. And this is really important. Inside the draw loop, this draw box, we always put the background. That way the background is drawn over and over again. We also put our movement box. In this example right here, it says sprite.x. That means it's going to change the x position. And then, of course, we remember this yellow block. That's what actually draws the sprites. So when we practice using this loop, this function box, we're going to put those types of items inside. But creating the variable and attaching your animation, those can stay outside of the box. But let's go try it. It'll make more sense when we practice it. Hit continue to go to bubble number 5. Let's click run to see what kind of code we have. Oh, it's the same one. We've got that green ellipse that is repeating, and each time it has a random X and random Y position. In the instructions, we're going to add code to this program so that our drawing has orange circles being drawn too. So let's do that. So if we want to draw orange circles, we have to start with the fill. Remember, just like a painter would dip their paint brush in color first, we do that with coding. So let's go to the drawing section, find a fill color block, and we're going to drag it and put it on line 6. It's inside of that green function block, that draw loop. And underneath the fill, actually let's change that color first. Our directions said to make it an orange circle. So let's change the color to orange on line 6. Okay. And now we're going to drag over an ellipse so it snaps right into that fill orange on line 7. Okay. Now our ellipse has 4 boxes: the X position, the Y position, the width, and the height. Now for this example, we don't need the width and the height. We only want the X and the Y. So we're going to click this little arrow off to the side to decrease those 2 boxes. So we just have X and Y showing. But of course, we don't want a specific number in here. We want a random number. So if we look at our random block, oh yep, they are orange, so they're in the math section. And let's carefully drag over a random number for the X position and the Y position. And let's make it match. So for the random numbers, it can be between 0 and 400. 0 and 400 also for the Y. Now a trick is, if you don't want to have to use your mouse all the time, use that tab key to cycle between these different fields. So we added 2 lines of code, a fill block and an ellipse block, and additionally we added the random number. All right, let's see how it looks. Let's reset and run. And feel free to press pause if you need some more time to complete this on your own lesson. There we go. We have now orange and green circles. Click finish. All right, on bubble 6, you are just making a prediction. It says to take a look at this code. It has a small difference that will make it run a little differently. Remember, all your code outside the draw loop is run first only one time. And then all of your code inside this green function draw loop box is repeated over and over and over. So if you look at this, let's try to guess what will happen. The frame rate is 5, so it will change on the interval of 5. No stroke means there's no border. The background is blue, and the fill is yellow. So the fill being yellow means any shapes after this will be yellow. But let's see. Then what will happen is the background is red, and an ellipse will be drawn at a random X and a random Y. So do you think the background will be blue or red? Type in your prediction in the box. And once you have your prediction, click run. And red was correct because the blue background only showed for a fraction of a moment and instead was replaced by the red background. So if you put red background or red background with yellow circles, great job. If you didn't get the prediction correct, that's okay. Hit finish. Okay, bubble 7. Now we get to add some sprites, our little characters. So our frame rate is 10. It's been slowed down a little bit so we can see it. Let's do this. Run the code to see how it works. We recognize this little alien dude. So if we look at our code, the frame rate is 10. On line number 2, we created a variable and named it Sprite. And we said to put that sprite at the X and Y position 100, 200. And then we attached an animation to that sprite, the green alien. And then in the function draw box, we have our orange background and we have a sprite.x. This block, the sprite.x block, changes the X position every time this function is repeated. And then the yellow block draws a sprite. So inside this box, we're saying display the background, change the X position randomly, draw it. And then it repeats, background again, new random X position, draw it, and over again. So our code, it looks like our alien is moving, when really his X position is just randomly changing with each change of the frame rate. But it looks like he's moving. All right, now we never want to put any code outside of the green box, after the green box, because it will never happen. Basically, the program gets stuck in this draw loop and will never leave it. So please don't put blocks outside of the, don't put blocks after the function draw loop. All right, click finish. Here we are on bubble 8. So it's in the shape of a diamond, so it's a review summary section. So these are the blocks that we're going to be practicing in the next few bubbles. Sprite.x is the one we just saw with the alien. And the .x means it's going to allow you to change the X position, okay, so it would move side to side. And so .y would then do the opposite. It lets you move or change the Y position to be random, which makes your sprite character go up and down. Okay, so with the X, we can make our character move side to side, and with the .y, we can make our character go up and down. And with .rotation, it does just what it sounds. It rotates, so it kind of swivels from side to side. Sprite.scale will change the size of your sprite. We practiced this with the kite one in lesson 6, so you can make something bigger or smaller. And then Sprite.visible just allows you to make it visible or invisible at different times. All right, and so when we come down here, just a couple reminders on how to drag the blocks over. The movement blocks will be in the pink sprite section. When you drag that over, it will change to be a little bit purple. So it will look like it does on the right. So it'll be the purple box, and then on the right hand side, you can put in the random blocks. All right, so this is just a little summary. So let's click continue. We can always come back to this one if we have questions also. All right, here we have an example of 2 different sprites. One of them is working and one of them is not. We would like both of the sprites, a pencil and a paintbrush, to appear that they are moving side to side. So in the upper right area of your screen, take a look at the example, and you can see that just subtly the pencil and the paintbrush are moving. So let's click run and see what we have to work with. Well, the pencil is moving, but you'll notice the paintbrush is not. So we're going to fix this. Let's edit the code to make it work. And we want it to look like the example in the upper right corner. All right, so let's take a look at our code. On line 1 and 2, we created a pencil sprite and attached the pencil animation to it. And then line 4 and 5 is the brush sprite, and they attach the animation. So we're going to leave those. Those just create the variable, so they need to stay there. Now let's look inside this green function draw loop. We have our background block. It's always important to have that one in there. And here's the pencil. Now remember, the pencil is working. So we have a pencil.x, so that gives it the side to side. And then we don't have a specific number, we have a random number block. So it is randomly giving an X position between 100 and 110. So if we put our mouse over here, we can see the X position in the bottom left corner. Now the brush, there is a brush.x block, which is great. However, it's a fixed number, and that fixed number will not give it the illusion of movement. So we're going to change this. Instead of a fixed number, we're going to add a random block. So on line number 10, we're going to go to the math section of the toolbox and drag over the random number block. Drop it off in that spot. Now the brush was at 300. The X position was 300. So let's start our X at 300 in this random number block. And then what should our second number be? Well, if we look at the pencil block, we'll notice that the random number difference between these two numbers is only 10. So let's make it that same difference for our brush. So it'll be from 300 to 310. Feel free to pause this video so you can do this on your own lesson. And once yours are updated, click reset and run. And both the pencil and the brush should now give the appearance of moving. Click finish. So if the pencil and the brush, the big takeaway on that one was the dot X movement, side to side, from left to right. On bubble 10, we're going to work on some vertical movement, up and down. So click run, and this is a salt shaker. It is supposed to move up and down, just like the example in the top right. However, ours is not moving. So in this bubble, we have to do a little bit more than we did in the last. You'll notice we have a frame rate, so that's the speed of the frame changes. We have this creating the salt variable, we have the background, and we have the salt.y. The only thing that's missing is the draw box. So we are going to drag that over, and I'm going to start by putting it on the bottom. Sometimes it's hard to remember what goes inside that function draw loop. Okay? But on all our examples so far, we started with the background. So let's put that inside there. The movement block, in this example, the movement block is salt.y. And then the yellow draw sprites. Okay. The variable blocks stay before the function. Okay. So the only thing we moved inside the function draw box was the background, salt.y, and draw sprites. And notice we didn't change any numbers. All we did was add the green block and move some other ones around. Feel free to press pause so you can do this on your own screen. And then when you're done, hit reset and run. And there's our salt shaker. The dot Y, you'll notice, gives the illusion of movement vertically up and down. Click finish. All right, bubble 11. It's a return of the aliens. So far we've practiced dot X, which moves left to right, dot Y, that moves up and down. And now on this block, we're going to practice one that's dot rotation. So you'll notice our little green alien is just pivoting, he's rotating. But we need to fix the pink alien because the pink alien is not rotating and we want it to look the same. So let's look at our code. Also, there's an example in the upper right corner. All right, let's look at our code. Oh, this one has some nice notes in there. The gray area blocks are just some notes. So we've got our frame rate. We created the green alien and the pink alien. And please pay careful attention to how it's typed. Remember camel case? Whenever you have a second word, you capitalize the second word. And we've got our pink alien. They have no stroke, which means no border. Fill white. That white fill is for all those little tiny ellipses that show up. They look like stars. Inside the function draw block, we've got our background, the circles that show up randomly, and then we have a green alien dot rotation. And his rotation is a -5 to +5. So that's how that green alien is moving. Now we need to do the same thing for the pink alien. So these movement blocks are in the pink sprites section of the toolbox. So let's go to the sprites section. And here it is, sprite.rotation. So let's drag it over and snap it underneath the green alien rotation. And we have to name it. So the name of the pink alien is pink, capital alien. And we'd like the rotation to be the same. So let's go to the math section. My mouse is acting crazy. Drag over that random number block, and we're going to use the same number from -5 to 5. Or if you'd like to have fun, you can put in a different number completely and see what happens. Press pause if you need to do this on your own screen, and then click reset and run. There we go. Actually, I am going to make my pink alien go a little bit more. Let's do -35 to 35. Let's see what happens. There you go. is our dot rotation block. When you've been successful, click Finished. Bubble 12 is the best part because this is where we get to add movement to the sprite scene that you created at the end of lesson 6. So this little reminder box in the middle is reminding us that this was part of a previous project. So I'm going to go ahead and hit X. Let's click Run and remind ourselves what your scene looked like before. There we go. All right, we're going to add a draw loop to our program. And remember, we can only have one. And then we're going to click and hold off to the side to move blocks that we want to move inside that draw loop. And then you're going to decide if you want your character to move left and right with the sprite.x block, up and down with the .y block, or if you want it to rotate. All right, let's get started. I'm going to get those directions out of the way. So some of us have a lot of code, and that's totally fine. Let's start by dragging over the function block. I'm going to drag it down to the bottom. Now, these purple and pink blocks at the top where I created my variables, I'm going to keep those at the top. I am not going to put them inside the draw loop. They only have to be created once. But everything else I am going to put inside the draw loop. So I'm going to click off to the right of my first blue block and hold my mouse down. When you hold it down, you'll notice it selects everything as I go down. And the beauty of this is you only have to click and move these once. It's so much easier than trying to remove them one at a time. So I will do that one more time. So to move a section of blocks, click and hold off to the right of that first block, and then drag your mouse to the left and down until the last one is selected. And then click towards the top of that stack of blocks and drag them down inside the green function draw loop. Okay, so if I hit Reset Run, my scene looks just the same. Okay? And that's because the next step is adding one of those movement blocks. So let's go to the pink Sprites section of our toolbox, and it's time to decide. Do you want your sprite to move left and right with sprite.x, up and down with sprite.y, or rotate with sprite.rotation? Totally up to you. I think I'm going to make my ship go up and down, and my little monster guy, I'm going to make him rotate. Now, the minimum requirement on this activity is to have one of your sprites move. Some of you had several sprites, so I challenge you to make all of your sprites move, but the minimum is just to make one. So for my little monster guy, I'm going to bring over the sprite.rotation, and I'm going to put it directly above my yellow block that says Draw Sprites. And since I'm going to work on the monster, I better put in his name. So instead of saying sprite, it will say monster. And instead of putting in a single number here, we're going to use the random block. That's what gives it the appearance of movement. And I'm going to say -15 to 15. Now I also want my spaceship to move, but I want it to go up and down. So I'm going to use the sprite.y and also put it above the yellow block. Change the name of the sprite to match. So that sprite is named Ship. That's what I named it above. So I'm going to keep that same name. And I want the Y to be random. Now here's the tricky part. Right now my ship's Y is at 300. That's where I put it before. So I want it to go from 300 maybe to 100. So what I did was I just looked at my screen and I put my mouse up and down how high I want it to go, and that's how I got those numbers. So let's go from 100 to 300. And then I noticed I might have to move my text a little bit. So let's go ahead and hit Reset Run. Wow, my sprites are definitely moving, but the speed is too fast. So if you remember, you can change the speed of your sprites by using the frame rate block. That's in the yellow section, the world section. So if your sprites are like mine and it's a little too fast, drag over a world frame rate block. And I'm just going to put that at the very top. I'm going to start with frame rate of 10. And I'm going to see if that slows it down. Oh yeah, that's better. And you'll notice my text that says almost home is a little bit covered up. So I'm going to come down to my text block and I'm going to move it up. And remember, to move it up, that Y number has to actually go down. Isn't that strange? So instead of 120, I'm going to move it to 60. So if your movement covers up something important, you can move that around a little bit. All right, there we are. So for full credit on this lesson, on this activity, I'll be looking for a sprite movement using the green function block. And remember, we put that green function block in, we dragged everything that you already had that was blue and yellow into that, and then we just added some sprite movement blocks. So I hope this helped you create your own animated scene, and I am looking forward to seeing them. All right, thank you for listening. See you next time.